Welcome back to the studio. You're watching Eye on Africa here on France 24. I'm Shona Bhattacharya. Let's take a look at our top stories in this edition. The oil industry and other sectors are up and running again in Gabon, despite calls from opposition leader Jean Ping for a general strike. Meanwhile, Gabonese and French citizens are reported missing more than a week after Ali Bongo won the presidential election. Disappointed by their party and their leader, ANC activists protested outside the party's headquarters in Johannesburg while opponents occupied the building and police surrounded it. The anti-apartheid party suffered its worst defeat since coming to power 22 years ago last month. Ditching cash crops for gold, cocoa farmers in Ivory Coast are giving up their livelihoods due to drought and poverty. And they're not the only ones looking for nuggets in the illegal mines that have replaced the orchards. A call to strike gone largely unanswered in Gabon. Jean Ping, who the Election Commission says lost the presidential vote by a slim margin, called for voters to walk off the job this Monday, but few heeded the call. For many Gabonese, life is getting back to normal. Oil refineries are up and running again, but access to the internet remains limited in the capital, Libreville. Officially, at least 6 people were killed in post-election violence. That's pushed the justice minister to resign. But France claims several of its citizens are missing, and some Gabonese families are saying the same. Nicolas Germain has the story.
They ran to see who was being brought in the police truck and caught a glimpse of men with their hands behind their heads. These families have not heard from their loved ones for several days now following post-electoral violence. They heard that suspects were being brought to the courthouse on Monday. Nearly 800 people were arrested last week.
I've been looking for my son since Thursday.
I came to see if my little brother was among those arrested.
Our children are either in there or they're dead. That's why we've come. To identify our children. Is there still the rule of law in this country?
They didn't let us in, but we must stay to see if our children are there or not.
The situation remains tense. On Monday, the internet was accessible again. Everyone is now wondering if opposition leader Jean Ping will challenge the result in the Constitutional Court. He has until Thursday to do so. But many of his supporters say this would be useless as they argue the court clearly backs Ali Bongo. Jean Ping called for a general strike. Above all, he demanded a recount, especially in the province of Otogoué, Bongo's stronghold. That's where the official turnout rate was above 99% and where the incumbent Bongo obtained more than 95% of the vote.
Central African Republic President Faustin-Archange Touadéra visited Bria this Monday, the first since the 2013 coup d'etat that chased François Bozizé from power. Bria was once under the control of the Seleka, rebels who orchestrated the coup and remained in power for less than a year. President Touadéra met with former rebels and vowed to visit remote parts of the country to talk about his agenda in office.
Some representatives of the armed groups have proven their good intentions to be part of the disarmament and peace process. I think talks are heading in the right direction. And as you can see, the people are willing to work towards peace and national reconciliation.
Internal divisions are boiling over at South Africa's ANC. Activists from rival factions of the African National Congress faced off this Monday in Johannesburg. Police patrolled the local party headquarters, where supporters loyal to the president pledged to defend the building from the 40 or so activists protesting at how the party and government are being run. Sanam Chantier has the story.
Stamping on the face of South Africa's president in a symbolic gesture, carrying placards emblazoned with "We want Zuma out." This rare public show of anger in the country's ruling party while chanting and singing.
There's no person who have brought the name of the ANC into disrepute more than our president himself.
Monday's protest came on the heels of poor election results last month and a string of scandals linked to South Africa's embattled leader, with tens of demonstrators vowing to occupy the ANC's headquarters. The voices of discontent, however, were not left to their own devices. They were met with forces loyal to Jacob Zuma. Among them, camouflage-clad members of the former armed wing of the governing party. Some patrolled the building, others roared chants of their own. The ANC's Secretary-General was quick to take to the stage, urging supporters not to resort to violence.
Don't give it publicity. Allow it to fizzle out. Don't try to beat them up. Don't try to do things. Because if you do that, you are giving them free airtime.
While the ANC did win the majority vote in local elections in August, its reputation took a battering. They lost control of the nation's economic hub, Johannesburg, as well as the capital, Pretoria. Today, as pressure grows, divisions are deepening in the ruling party after 22 years at the helm.
Now let's take a look at what else is making headlines around the continent and paving the way for a new president in Zambia. The country's constitutional court this Monday rejected an attempt to challenge incumbent Edgar Lungu's victory in the August 11th election. Hakainde Hichilema, who lost the election by 100,000 votes, alleged that the result was rigged. But the 14-day deadline for presenting a legal challenge has expired, prompting Hichilema to denounce a, quote, clear miscarriage of justice. Edgar Lungu is set to be inaugurated next week. Reshuffling Angola's cabinet, President José Eduardo dos Santos fired his agriculture minister and his chief of staff. He also dismissed finance minister Armando Manuel, who was appointed in 2013. Over the last 2 years, the sharp drop in world oil prices has crippled Angola's economy, weakening the kwanza and prompting heavy government borrowing. 2 months ago, Angola broke off talks with the International Monetary Fund over emergency aid. Restricting UN-mandated troops in South Sudan. The government in Juba has accepted the reinforcement of peacekeepers, but says it must agree on their number, their nationality, and the weapons they carry. Demands that go against the agreement reached between President Salva Kiir and the visiting UN Security Council on Sunday. As it is, there are currently 12,000 blue helmets in the world's youngest country. The UN has threatened an arms embargo if South Sudan does not comply. Abandoning cash crops to dig for gold. Farmers in Ivory Coast are despairing after changing climate conditions mean less rain for cocoa, cashews, and coffee. The lure of gold is even attracting dissatisfied planters from other countries in the region. But the small, unlicensed mines are leading to the destruction of orchards and fields. Still, for many, it's the price to pay for putting food on the table for their families.
In the village of Bria in central Ivory Coast, dozens of hectares of coffee, cashew nuts and crops are disappearing every day under the pickaxe of illegal miners. Day and night, hundreds of men dig this hard, red earth in search of gold.
When it rains along the edge of the road, you get a few nuggets, so we thought that if we dig, we will find it. The young people were told if there's nothing to eat, go there. They started coming, and thank God, some young people have bread now.
In recent years, the region's been hit by drought and farming no longer makes as much money. Illegal gold mining has replaced farm work as an alternative source of income.
You see that people have been able to do things they couldn't have done before. Others are bringing their children to educate them here, so we don't complain, because we found that it's more profitable than farming.
The gold rush has attracted many young people and those keen to make a quick buck.
I was a mechanic, but I quit because this can make you rich.
Now, local residents are keen for an established mining company to take over the operation of these mines to stop illegal miners from as far as Mali, Burkina Faso and Guinea coming to the area.
If a trader comes here and says, I'll take this land and employs people, there won't be this overwhelming mess which we have today.
The government has recently launched a programme that resulted in the closure of 200 illegal gold mining operations in the north and the centre of the country. But despite these measures, the gold is too good to give up, and the miners just keep coming.
Celebrating Ivory Coast star athletes, President Alassane Ouattara rewarded the nation's 2 medalists after their return from the Rio Olympics. Sheikh Salah Cissé, who won Ivory Coast's first ever gold in Taekwondo, received 50 million CFA francs, or 75,000 euros, as well as a new house. Ruth Bagby won the country's other medal. She got bronze, also in Taekwondo. She was also given a new house and 30 million CFA francs, or 45,000 euros. At the presentation, the athletes appealed for more funding and better facilities to train. Speaking of sports, the lineup is in place for the Africa Cup of Nations. 16 teams have until January to train for the competition that is taking place in Gabon this year. As the host, Gabon qualified automatically. This year, the run-up results came as a surprise for heavyweights and underdogs alike. Guinea-Bissau won their group for the first time, beating every other team. Nigeria and South Africa, however, did not make it through the qualifiers, despite both winning the tournament in the past. And that's the end of this edition. There's more news coming up on France 24. Stay with us.
نقاش فرانس 24 جدل الآن وحديث وتعليق من وفي كل مكان.
France 24, c'est une passerelle entre les cultures, c'est la diversité.
It's also a great way of sharing it and discussing it on social media.
We give a voice to women and girls, whoever they are, wherever they are.
هل تعرفون باريس؟ أحقاً تعرفونها؟ تابعوا France 24 لمعرفة الناس.
Tout ce que vous avez toujours voulu savoir sur l'Europe, c'est sur notre chaîne.